Welcome back to War Thunder and welcome back to Duck Talks, and this is episode 37 after almost a 1 month break. That has been quite something. So what's going to be the topics of this week? Well, Beer War 2.0, what I think about lineups after rethinking certain topics, then the might of Jingles, and certain other smaller issues, as well as answering the questions from last Duck Talks. And first question sort of comes from a longer comment from Ash. Why do I care about the drama that was mentioned back in Duck Talks 36, aka the Beer War and the Mighty Jingles and so on? Now, for all of you that remember it, you now can listen to something else. But for all of you who don't know what's going on, practically not a small YouTuber, but a not so important YouTuber called what was his name? Sir Fosh. Actually, started practically a drama with insulting wargaming for implementing a so-called overpowered premium tank, and he was threatened with a copyright strike, so on and so on. At the end of the drama, Jingles actually quit as a community contributor. It were several rounds of this drama, so many unnecessary parts at the hands of wargaming, whatever. And yeah, Ash simply asked, why do I care about the drama that was going on in World of Tanks, and to a certain degree World of Warships as well? The simple reason is it included YouTubers that I myself watch, and also Jingles. Now, as you might know by this time, I absolutely am a little fanboy of Jingles, but I still have my own bro. We are all equal. Now, the funny part about this story was that Jingles made a sudden turnaround. Not a real turnaround, but he also made a very, very nice progress when it came to still sticking to his arguments, but also, going around to a more diverse, channel content, including War Thunder, which a few of you predicted would never happen the next day, and the first War Thunder video was up. So, GG. Why do I care about this? I still haven't answered this question. Well, simply because Jingles brought me into War Thunder, and it also had a backfiring aspect on, the CEO from Gaijin, because he then cleared out some of the aspects that were not so clear when it came to copyright striking issues when creating War Thunder content. And it was on Reddit, and it was just simply him saying, well, everybody can do whatever he wants without fearing threats from us. The result was quite significant. Not just Jingles, but also some other YouTubers that I always believed had an eye on War Thunder, just waiting for such a chance, turned around. Amongst them, IJ's Gaming. And while he doesn't, immediately bring up extremely capable content, he tries, he makes his experience, and it's fun him trying to do stuff. Now, from my perspective, I can tell you right now, when it comes to aircraft, I would eat him up. But, I play this game constantly for over 4 years right now. So, if not me, who else can beat this guy? But at the end of the day, he makes his first steps, or his first backs after returning, whatever. And that is, one of the aspects why I cared about this drama. Because I foresaw that, but I never mentioned it. So because I never mentioned it on YouTube, there is no real evidence, except from the people that I talked to. Over a year ago, there was this drama with Fly Daily and him being threatened by a so-called lone employee of Gaijin. And that started all this drama. So now wargaming screwed up massively, and it cost them more, in the end than Gaijin, which is surprising because Gaijin started overall the drama. I know that's not a real precise answer, but the overall topic is huge and much bigger than you even can imagine if you just stumble across it. Yeah, so there is that. Gosh, over 5 minutes into the video and I answered just one question. Well, that's a good start. Next question comes from Frank Bradley. Do you think the chat BR system should go from the 7.0, 8.0 and 9.0 range to the 7. Yada 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 to the 9.0 range, so BR 3.3 steps? This could help the new Italian jets, the American naval line, early sabers, a lot of the Me-262s and Meteors models, and etc. Well, to make it short, of course, the battle rating spread amongst jets should increase, so we need more range within the battle rating systems, and that is known for a very long time. Compression is a problem, especially at high tiers. While at mid-tier, the overall performance of the planes is still, manageable. Maybe also due to the fact that when I play it, not the most experienced players are my opponents. At higher tiers, you really feel the big performance, especially when there is a capable player making use of its vehicle to the best, way. And then you really just feel completely outmatched, and there is not a lot of things that you can do. Then the next thing is not a really question, it's a comment from Toshio Aikiyama. Ate, when we lose contact with you, we will pour out a local brewery, knowing you are one of the many victims of the brewery wars. That's nice. Thank you. Then Sebastian Nelson says, Jingles always says to think for ourselves and not follow a celebrity word of opinions, including his. So whatever happened, you can't blame him. Blame the idiots who can't think of for themselves. Then James V. the Bosch responded, otherwise saying, I take no responsibilities for anything I say. Way to go. And that brings us to, one of the really nice aspects of the War Thunder community and YouTube and so on. I mentioned it a few times, not just in Duck Talks, but in certain other videos, that something is just my opinion, or just don't listen just to myself and my videos. Spread out a little bit. Maybe somebody else is better at explaining a certain issue to you, or helping you out better, because his way of explaining things is better than mine for you. And in other news, there is the Mighty Jingles, and the Mighty Jingles name actually by itself is now very funny, because the Might of Jingles is something that triggered a lot of you in the comment section of last Duck Talks. And when I say the Might of Jingles, what does it have to do with War Thunder? Well, he brought many players to War Thunder. He created a player base, a followership, and just made the game to a certain degree what it is now today, to a place where people go and have fun still, despite many issues. But a lot of people also have fun in World of Tanks, despite many issues that even drove me away from the game, and that's quite something, because I normally stick with the games that I began to play. So when Jingles turned away from War Thunder, he took a not insignificant part of players with him, and just made a few others uncertain of, should I continue to play War Thunder? Should I really cover this game with my content? Many players turned away, and it did a lot of harm to War Thunder. But why was one YouTuber so mighty that he could inflict possibly this damage to a game company that is out there on a lot of servers throughout the entirety of the world, when it comes to where the player base is from? I think Jingles has really a outstanding point of, impact on War Thunder, and where before Jingles quit, one of his videos that I watched was his E100, video where he presented it in a test drive. It was around about Christmas, 1.5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and I think that he said something like, "Yeah, the guys at Gaijin are very nice to me from the department that is responsible to for dealing with the community or the YouTubers," and that just was one part of the change within Gaijin after the Fly Daily disaster. It was not really a disaster, but it had the appearance of it. I'm not really answering questions here, am I? Oh gosh, over 11 minutes into the video right now. So then third question comes from Akmidra23. Question: for the future, would you do videos focusing on lineups, playstyle, detailed guides for tank RB? I get the feeling that most of the players don't understand that an RB battle is not just about one vehicle. Well, that brings me actually to a point that I wanted to cover within, my remaining time of the Duck Talks. But let's just go right into it. Yes, I will probably feature lineup guides, but I think that a lot of players that are exceeding tier 3, approaching tier 4, 5, already know what is the kind of best lineup, because it's not so difficult to figure out which vehicle should have a decent impact in which role and how to play it. But on other news, when you rewatch replays, when you watch your own gameplays, you always see that especially AAA doesn't really go for airplanes, rather hunting tanks, and then it's all the more annoying when they fail and get killed and just taken out. Lineups are still an issue for me personally. I don't like them, but I more and more got into the feeling that they're really needed. However, I feel still much more comfortable in a good tank where I can shape the remaining of the battle outcome with one vehicle. That's my personal goal. Yes, lineups, if you have a really good lineup, fully upgraded and so on, you can really impact the game, especially when you know how to use it. And the Orange Doom, with which I made an E100/Mouse gameplay a few days ago, which you guys really like, by the way. I might do some more if you really like them so much. Depends just if Doom is really willing to go back to the mouse after he has respaded it with the smoke shell. But back to the topic. I talked to Orange in private quite a lot about this, and I was like, yeah, and he was like, that's complete bullshit, just think in another direction. And I have to agree to a certain extent, because remember what my first impressions of chats were. I said, chats suck, they're terrible, don't play them. I had all of them, I never played them. And now I came around to really kind of enjoy them, finding my way within them. And so I guess the next, appropriate step would be to go also into lineups. I never felt necessary in them. I have a 1/3 survival rate in tanks like the IS-6, the T-29, the E100/ the Mouse in both RB and arcade, and I think that just tells you how really I like my heavy tanks, especially at higher tiers, and how I just want to be playing around the preserving aspect and always have the possibility of coming back in a lineup. But whenever I used a lineup, it ended in failure. That's my impression. So to just forget about that and overcome it is not that easy. And I must not forget about this, because that was the reason why I refused to go into War Thunder like that, or rather Tank RB. Next question comes from Bulldog23 is, Also, how do you say duck talks in German? Well, it's not so easy to just translate it into German and to expect really a full answer from it. It's a bit more detailed within English itself. It came from DuckTales, a show that I loved when I was really a small boy and so on. And then also there is the duck that is, you know, a German ground attacker, which I used to make my aces in RRB because reasons. Also, I talk a lot, so Duck Talks, a plan that I really love. I made the series early on. I think my first video was about enduring confrontation, you know, aka the mode that should be. So it's not a straightforward translation word by word. That brings me also to a little side note. There is something called like false friends. The German language is still kind of related to the English one, and many words write themselves or pronounce themselves very similar to existing German words and or English words therefore. And so you fall very easy for those friends that you don't really have to learn because you trust them. And then a lot of words, or some of them, have a different meaning. Sensible, sensitive, and many more examples are there. And I have fallen for one of them when I said that I argue with somebody. What I actually mean by them is not really, you know, stressing out somebody by, you know, punching him right in the face with arguments. It's more like going for a argumentation, you know, listing stats and facts and just stating my opinion. It's not really the usual German way of invading countries. No! You guys, man. It's more like, you know, sorting out things by talking, and so to a few guys out there I sounded much more aggressive than I actually wanted to be. Yeah, another time that I say there's that. Next question is a very interesting one, and it comes from Danish Dynamite, and he within a comment asked, how do you manage the transition between AB and RB? Well, back in the days when I played excessively AB, this is what I think this guy means, and I really feared to go into RB because I thought to myself, what the hell, I have no experience in that, I'm so good in AB, just, you know, go on with the ride that I enjoy. So in AB I would recommend to go with the Japanese because they have the easiest and most favorable transition between AB and RB, while in AB they are not that strong, they're still not that bad. In RB they just kick ass, and with the Germans it's the other way around. While they are great in AB due to the firepower and the lack of instructor issues, in RB it's the other way around. They are just terrible, and no doubt about that, amongst the worst nations when it comes to between tier 4 and 3 and 4 prop fighting. Focke Wolves, P409s, G series, I despise them. They are so bad in RB. You still can make them work due to the stupidity of allied players, and this is not meant as an insult, but I've talked about that so much that everybody should get the point right now. Then Bema Fader asked, did you know Arrogant Bastard is the name of a popular craft beer in the US, or just coincidences? Well, this time it is coincidence. However, about craft beers, it brings me back to another side note of the beer wars. There are a few popular craft beers that are produced within in Munich, and I also had to collect a few pints, let's just call it like that, from Munich, and I had a journey from my place within the middle of Bavaria to Munich, and I went into this what's the right word to use here? Well, it was a massive complex where they had just stored beer, and I went into where the drivers go, and they just, you know, said, hey, I'm there, this was kind of ordered. Where can I get it? And I went into the office, so to speak. I got my orders, and then I went into the depot, and holy moly, that depot was huge. Like, when you drive through a normal village, you know, every road has a certain length, let's put it that way. And, well, one of the length of such a road was just purely covered by the empty bottles of one company, and they had like 20 companies within that depot that kind of sold their stuff right there. I just took a rather small amount of them, so like in German it's zwei Paletten, it's rather Bavarian. So 80 boxes of beer, and they were rather expensive, so I had to make sure that I get this stuff home over the German Autobahn without any issues. But you know, luck was with me, so I arrived at home without any issues. And well, one of those boxes that you know, normally buy for 16 euros now gets there sold for 25 euros, so over 1 euro for a bottle, for a pure price without the additional bottle price. So that's quite something. And it's pure hop. It's like a hop grenade. That's actually the logo of one of the breweries. So, I'm not joking. They are good in quality but bad in taste. Yeah, I don't like them. Next question is actually World of Warships related and comes from Richie Moorman. For World of Warships, is there any reason to fire in servos like IRL, or are you better off just firing all guns when they're ready? Yeah, there are open servos and closed servos. The thing is, there is a tactical point of just firing all guns at once. For example, if you just intercept, so to speak, a cruiser while he's turning, and when you shoot and the shells arrive, when he shows you perfect broadside, then you can expect some citadels. For open salvo, so turret by turret shooting, so to speak, I think this has the best use against cruisers in an attack when they need to turn sideways on to release their torpedoes, like Japanese cruisers, or destroyers. When you hit them bow on, you do the maximum damage, because then the shell actually detonates within midships and does like half of a citadel damage, which correlates to massive damage against the destroyers from a battleship gun, regardless of the tier. Then Tiger Crazy, a lot of numbers. Napalmratte, will you be doing a video on the Vickers MBT? Oh, you can be sure about that. This is one stupid tank, and it's actually related to an issue and to a story of success that I have kind of with the Leopard, and you will be surprised. So yeah, the Vickers MBT is a very, very interesting tank, and I will not spoil you any further. Next question comes from Akusti Skite, I hope I pronounced it right. Which is the best belt for the MG151? Well, I'm not sure if you mean the MG151-15 or -20, but I assume you mean the -20s, you know, the 20mm. Well, interestingly, the MG151 is one of the most versatile guns when it comes to the belt selection. Overall, against aircraft, I would either go for stealth or also for air targets. They're kind of equal, where the anti-aircraft belt or air targets belt help you a little bit with aiming. So I think with the MG151 there is also another option, which is the armored belt or armored targets belt, which should be a bit more efficient against bomber and bomber wings / engines as it is currently now. But it changes from patch to patch. Also, the omni-purpose belt is not that bad when you think about that the armor-piercing rounds, regardless of any gun in the game, got kind of a buff, so there is a bit more armor-piercing incendiary ratio in them compared to the Minengeschosse. It's always down to personal preference, but against normal fighters, either stealth or air targets. Very simple way to put it. Next comment comes from Birth WT, and it's one of my favorites. First, I'm first, yay! On response from Nicky Bill. So, now what? I mean, you've reached the pinnacle of YouTube comment posting. What can top that? Good response. I like that. Might have to do with the fact that I'm slightly drunk. I don't care. That was a bad joke, by the way, because we Germans are never drunk. We're just overloaded with the work with quality control on beer. True fact. So after 25 minutes, maybe we should go back into the topics of the Beer War 2.0. So I talked about the certain hype of beers, and now I actually have realized that one beer type, namely M, is now at the end of the hype. It still gets sold quite nicely, but the hype for it is definitely over. Therefore, the phrase "it's a hype." Then there was a party a few weeks ago, like 3 weeks ago, where actually one of the breweries called A had a rolling cooling device. What's the actual English word? Let me just look it up. I guess my best shot would be cooling trailer. Well, there was one of the cooling trailers of the company called A, or brewery called A, at this party. And when it was about time to break down the stuff and to just go home, you know, to dismantle all the stuff. Don't know if dismantling is the right word here. Oh, it's German beer, of course you have to dismantle it. Yeah. Well, the funny fact was we had also some cooling trailers there. So the funny part was that I actually had to drive one of the cooling trailers back to another brewery called G. It's getting a bit messy right here. And I had also the ride of my life because the navigation system failed, and I had to literally drive over hills and valleys without any orientation, just like I was following my instincts. I have a fantastic orientation sense, so to speak, and it to this day never failed me. I hate having to rely on it, but I have to time from time, and it never fails me. I found the brewery, which I have never driven to that time before. But the funny fact is that one of the bosses, or like the boss from one depot of that company called A, or the brewery called A, actually had no intentions of taking all the empty boxes with him and the what's the right word for it? The empty barrels with him, so he actually said that we should take them home. And now it's getting funny. So he had really no interest in actually doing his fucking work. So we had to do it for him, but it was not that much. The funny fact was that this brewery still sells beer for a high price without doing any advertisement at all. So by this time, every Bavarian should know what I'm talking about. You know, this AIDS brewery. It's not literally called AIDS, it's just an incident that it's also beginning with A. But the fact is, this brewery, or the bosses of this brewery, behave like dicks. That's what they are, that's how they behave. The funny thing is, so he had no intentions of cleaning up his own mess. We had to do it for him, but we kept that in mind. So we had to store the empty stuff at our place, and next week we expected a delivery of around about 500 boxes of that stuff, 500 Kisten, über 10 Paletten in German. And yeah, he said, well, I don't deliver, I don't have it. Again, remember the contingentation of that stuff, because he had reserved that stuff for others, despite, you know, promising it to deliver it to us. And now my boss freaked out. and that phone call was one hell of a phone call. Our entire staff amused us highly with that. It was, well, let's just call it like, my boss had quite some arguments, and yeah, you know, he just threatened this poor guy, or my boss threatened this guy to call into the headquarter and just tell them that he was not able to do his stuff 1 week ago while storing the empty stuff at us, while not, you know, wanting to take care of it like by one of his drivers. So it was a big fucking mess. At the end of the day, he had to deliver like 600 boxes because we actually ran out of it. When we sold the last 3 boxes, the truck arrived with the new fresh delivery, and well, we were quite amused because the driver, now one of those trucks, okay, they have a huge storage room, but when they arrive with full boxes of beer, they have quite some weight. But when they actually, you know, have to take when they have to take all the empty boxes with them and all the empty barrels, they actually can store as much as they want because they don't reach the maximum weight. The funny thing was we had so much empty stuff, so many empty boxes, so many empty barrels, that we had to store the barrels on top of the empty boxes, which were already 6 high. Normally they're stored 5 high. So the complete truck was filled to the last, and we still had stuff here. It was not too much, so we could, you know, tolerate it. But the driver was cussing. It was like, it's so difficult to explain it here via microphone without giving you any kind of pictures, because I didn't take any pictures, you know. I didn't think of, you know, explaining it to a wider audience or all around the world, but it was very, very amusing. Then we also had a heat wave going on. It's kind of cooled down the last 2 days, but it will go on even more brutal next week with up to 40 degrees, if I'm not mistaken. Last week we had up to 37 degrees. You know, I have to work outside in the sun where it's really where there's a lot of moisture in the air, and it's just so ugly to work out there for 12, 13, 14 hours, 6 days a week, and even on the 5th day I have to work like 6 hours. It's like all hell, all for, you know, the purpose of getting money to improve my sound quality, maybe get a new PC, all that shit. It's quite some story. And a lot of the work goes into unnecessary work. What do I mean by that? Well, it's I have told you that we actually have some cooling trailers, and a lot of people call for them. So they order them, they get reserved for them, they get filled up with all the stuff that they want, and it's like 70 up to 70 boxes of beer, and maybe some boxes of schnapps, wine, and you know, liquor. And when they get back, they just have needed like 5 to 6 boxes, maybe 2 boxes of liquor, wine, and schnapps, and so on. And you know, when you then have to rewrite it down what they actually needed for their own use, and when you have to go back when you have to get it back into the store and all that, that's so much work. Like, you earn nothing for that work. I mean, the company, you still get paid the time, but you get the point. You have filled up that cooling trailer, and you know how much they used, and it's just so disappointing. We have like 5 up to 6 cooling trailers, so that's quite some work. So you can expect to fill one up every day, but you have to fill them up even on shorter notice, even 2 times a week. and when they just need less than 10% of what they've ordered, we have 90% of unnecessary work, which is just disgusting. And we always ask our customers for what they needed, so if they have no plan what to order, then we kind of give them a tip what they actually might need for the amount of people that they have invited and so on. But they never listen. They typical German stubborn bastards. I'm sorry, but yeah, I guess that's enough about the Beer War 2.0. Let me know if you're really interested in that kind of stories and what you think about that. So then, what I think about lineups. So I've mentioned it before in answering some questions. Gosh, already over 35 minutes. Well, lineups are either something that you use quite excessively, and then sometimes something that you work really hard for. But you know, no nation to this day has a perfect lineup for all situations at any given BR system. It always depends on the planes, how competitive they are, the tanks, how many tanks you can get into your lineup, how many golden eagles you invested in upgrading your crews and or your crew slots, how many of them you have, and what's your personal playstyle, how upgraded is the tank, what are you actually playing for? Are you playing for getting the maximum amount of kills? Are you playing for the maximum amount of win ratio, or just to spade the tanks like I guess most people are doing? Other news, like 3 years ago when I wanted to switch over to RRB, I had so abysmal luck with my Germans. I always thought that I would be the one having no skill at all, but it was down to German flight models. I realized that when I switched over to the British and to the Japanese and even to the Russians. So I kind of, you know, always have or try to have all the perspectives into or take them into account for when I try to make my point. Lineups are a good idea, and especially the Orange Doom, I guess, is kind of a master of dealing with lineups, explaining them, explaining the thoughts behind them. And he made a very interesting point when I actually went into the Gepard, you know, the German tier 5 AAA, and I shot down certain planes. I was surprised that I actually hit them with the first burst, and he said, well, there you see it, you actually used just a handful of spawn points to get into this SPAA. You shot down 2 players, you massively out-traded them. Out-trading? Really? I mean, that's a value point, you know, like, you're actually not playing for the kills, but for how many spawn points you leave the enemy and how many spawn points you take them away. I actually have never really thought about this precise point in on this magnitude. It came to my mind, but I never made the connection between the single dots, you know, of the arguments that I had in my mind. That was something that just hit me quite hard. But then I remembered, hold on. I actually did very well by just using 1 tank and 1 tank only. And I still am better than a lot of the players that I play against or play with. This is not meant to, hey, look at me, I'm such a good player, I'm an elitist, I'm better than you all. This is just an observation. So where is the middle ground? What is there for to reach for the regular player that doesn't want to invest like €1,000 in gold eagles per nation, you know, but in other news to just what is reachable for the top end players without golden eagles and so on. It's a very, very complicated question, and I can't answer it in one video. Just to think about this. Then I think that I saved myself a lot of frustration with the lineups, not going back to them, because again, you have to kind of think about the one fact that I always try to point out. When you get destroyed, it is important when you get destroyed with which many spawn points, and what happens if you immediately get taken out by a spawn camper, or you know, a spawn pusher as some call it. And that was not meant as an insult or something, but however you define it, there's always somebody looking for the easy frags, and that is also kind of suppression, like I featured it in my Hellcat tank review. Because when you respawn and you get taken out, it doesn't matter if it gets by, if you are in a tank or a plane and you get shot down or destroyed by AAA, a tank or a plane, it doesn't matter. It just discourages me. Like I can't tell. I'd rather go for the quick loss than for the long, maybe if whatever victory that gets me nothing, because I spent my RP in planes that are not fully upgraded, or they're fully upgraded and they don't earn anything in them. So this is my point of view, while I'm still grinding throughout all the nation with respading, researching tanks / planes. Yeah, then there is like the news that the Fletcher DD was mentioned as being in development. Now that was quite some while ago, like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I'm early. I know. Make all your jokes. So that was, I'm sorry. That is highly interesting. Also, the Americans now get the destroyer after the Soviets and the British. I'm really looking forward to the Japanese ones. Are they pure torpedo destroyers? How useful are they compared to World of Warships, where they are either completely overpowered or, you know, not very good? How will the spotting of torpedoes work in the future? It's going to be very interesting. I think it's a good step into the right direction. I can't wait for all the Narvik destroyers from the Germans. Yes, I know, all the Germans. But also to kind of increase the maximum caliber to 150 millimeters for some of the late war German destroyers. And that then also kind of gives us the opportunity to look for bigger ships. Light cruisers also have 15 centimeter guns, so there is that. I'm really looking forward to the next test, and obviously you then can expect another video. That's it finally for today. I hope you still are with me to enjoy the end of the video. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Please give me a lot of questions in the comment section for next Duck Talks. Give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other in the skies and on the battlefields of War Thunder.